Hey everyone, and welcome into today's episode. It is really nice to be back here with you. And the conversation that I'm going to be bringing you today is a little bit of a deep one. We're going to be deep diving into how to heal and resolve our mother and father wounding. And I've talked a lot on the podcast about healing our inner child. So I do a lot of inner child healing work in my spaces. And ultimately, when we're working on healing the inner child, we're working on healing these wounds that we hold around our relationships with our mother and our father. But I want to dive specifically into these woundings today in this episode. I'm going to unpack the mother and the father wound and give you some starting steps on how to begin healing and resolving the woundings you hold around these core relationships. So these core relationships with your parents deeply shape you. They shape you as you're growing up, and they shape the woman that you become. And they're likely still on a subconscious level, still impacting you. You know, what you learned about yourself or what you experienced in those core relationships with your mother and your father. And in order to heal the way that those relationships are still impacting you and shaping you now, and maybe the way the wounds that you developed in those relationships are holding you back now, we really have to start to have a look at those relationships and look at what was modeled to you in those relationships. And your relationship with your mother shapes your relationship with your feminine energy and your relationship with women. And your relationship with your father shapes your relationship to your masculine energy and your relationship with men. And so I do a lot of work in my spaces around healing our masculine and feminine energies and also healing our relationships with the men and women in our life. And so ultimately we have to look at where we first learned and picked up information about these energies, and we picked it up through our relationship with our parents. And both of these relationships shape your relationship with yourself as well. And so when we work on healing any wounds we hold around our mother and father, ultimately this is helping us heal our relationship with ourselves. And I very often say, and I say this in Divine Femme a lot, that the way we relate to ourselves is often how our parents related to us, because they were our model of love. They were our model of relationship. And we grow up very often speaking to ourselves the way that our parents spoke to us and treating ourselves the way that our parents treated us, because we very often internalize that relationship, and that relationship begins to shape our relationship with ourselves, how we see ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, and how we feel about ourselves, and also how we relate to our own masculine and feminine energies. And so if we want to heal our feminine, masculine energies, this is something that we have to take a look at. So I do a lot of this work inside Divine Femme. In fact, with women at the program at the moment, I am doing so much work around supporting women in the program on healing their mother and father wounding. We're doing this through inner child work, but we're also doing this now. As adults, they are now healing this relationship by finally being able to speak their truth, or finally being able to stand up for themselves, or set a boundary, or have a healing conversation, or practice forgiveness. So this is both about working on the unresolved emotions and pains that we're carrying on a subconscious level, but it's also about healing the relationship in the present moment as well. And once we do the inner healing work, we can start to show up in new ways in those relationships, and those relationships can slowly start to change and also heal. So speaking of Divine Femme, I want to let you know that we've just opened up enrollments for the next intake of Divine Femme. We have an intake starting in mid-February. And I have early enrollments open for Divine Femme at the moment, and that is open to the wait list. So if you would like to enroll in Divine Femme, head to conniechapman.com/divinefemme, add your name to the wait list, and you'll be sent all the details on how to enroll. And you're also going to get some early enrollment investment benefits. So you can enroll, pay in full, and you can save $100 if you enroll before January 31st. Or you can enroll on a 7-part extended payment plan. Now, I've never offered a 7-part payment plan before. I only offer 3 or 6-part payment plans. But if you enroll early before January 31st, you can come onto a 7-part payment plan, which will allow you to spread your payments out over a longer period of time. It makes it more financially accessible for you. Or if you want to pay in full, you're going to get a pay in full discount. So enrollments are open for early enrollment. If you come and enroll before January 31st, you can get those benefits. You also will get immediate access to the welcome portal on the Divine Femme members site. And this means you can start diving into your Divine Femme resources right away. You can get your pre-work, your welcome resources, you get bonus embodiment practices, bonus trainings. You get to lay all the foundations of the program before we officially begin in February. And I would highly recommend this because when women leave it to the last minute to enroll, they have module 1 opening up, and then they're also still trying to do their pre-work and work through their bonuses and work through their intention setting practices. What I would love is for you to come in early, set the foundation, work through your welcome resources, and then you're all ready when we begin in mid-February. So come to conniechapman.com/divinefemme. Come and learn more about the program. This is my signature 6-month feminine healing and embodiment program, and join the waitlist, and you'll be sent those early enrollment links, and you can join us right away and get your Divine Femme journey started right away. I'm so excited for this next intake beginning in February. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to open up with the mother wound. That's where I want to begin with you, and I'm going to help you really understand the mother wound and how it shapes you and impacts you. So our relationship with our mother, as I mentioned at the start, often impacts how us as women relate to our own feminine energy, how we relate to other women, and how we mother ourselves internally, and whether we are able to bring feminine and motherly qualities to ourselves. So motherly feminine qualities are kindness, compassion, being encouraging, gentle, warm, soft, unconditionally loving, nurturing ourselves, nourishing ourselves. Are we able to bring those qualities and those practices to ourselves? It's something for us to reflect on. And if we didn't receive this type of love from our mother, this really warm, unconditionally loving, gentle, soft, nurturing, compassionate energy, we may now struggle to be able to relate to ourselves in that way because it was never modeled to us and it's not familiar to us. So if we never learned warm, soft, nurturing love, we won't know now how to nurture and nourish ourselves and love ourselves in a soft, kind way because it was never modeled. And so I see women who have this mother wounding. They're women who are very, very hard on themselves. They have a lot of negative self-talk. They struggle to put themselves first. They struggle to love themselves. They find it hard to encourage and support themselves. They're very highly self-critical. They are harsh and nitpicky and self-judgmental, and they struggle with body image issues as well. And this is 1,000% me. I have a lot of mother wounding, and I could really see very directly how it really impacted my ability to be very gentle and compassionate and supportive and warm and nourishing towards myself. And I remember working with this beautiful woman in Divine Femme, and she said to me on a coaching call one day, she's like, Connie, I genuinely don't know how to speak to myself in a warm, supportive, kind, or loving way. I genuinely don't have a vocabulary for that, right? Because she never heard that vocabulary. So it's very unfamiliar for her, and she has no reference point of even how to relate to herself in that way. So if you didn't receive that type of love from your mother, that real warm feminine love, you may have come to believe that 1, you don't deserve it, 2, you're not worthy of it, and you may learn to now withhold it from yourself or not know how to give it to yourself. And then we may withhold it from other women in our life as well. We might find we have issues with other women, and it's hard for us to bring that warmth and that softness and that celebration of other women. Maybe we become more judgmental, more competitive, more nitpicky, more critical, comparing, becoming jealous, right? That can then get projected onto other women. So there are sort of 2 scenarios on what your experience might have been growing up with your mother who didn't bring this healthy feminine energy to you. She might have 1, been in her wounded feminine energy, or 2, she might have just been completely disconnected from her feminine and been more in her masculine energy. So I want you to take a moment to think about what that was for you. For me personally, my mother was very much the wounded feminine, and to be honest, she still is. So if your mother was bringing more of a wounded feminine energy, she may have played a bit of the victim. She might have always been drowning in her own emotions and drama. She may have been very focused on herself. She might have been insecure, needy. She might have had body image issues, not very confident, not really in her power, maybe dependent on her partner. She might have also been depressed and moody and really drowning and wallowing in those lower level emotions. And all of this would have probably left a very negative taste in your mouth about the feminine. And you would have witnessed this and maybe felt that feminine energy was not really an energy that you liked or wanted to embody at all. This was your example of what feminine energy was. And perhaps to you, it was weak and passive and powerless. And in turn, this might have left you rejecting your own feminine energy because you associated negative qualities with being a woman and with being feminine. So the second option being maybe she was just disconnected from her feminine altogether and was more in her masculine. And she may have been in rejection of her own feminine energy based on her wounding, her trauma, her upbringing. And because she was in rejection of her own feminine, she was not able to accept and nurture your feminine. She may not have been able to hold you in your emotions, support you in your sensitivity, honor your feelings, and really welcome your softer side. And instead, perhaps, and I've definitely heard this from women inside Divine Femme, she may have been more firm and hard on you, critical, judgmental. She might have been nitpicky. And you may have had to harden up in response to that in order to handle that more harsh or critical energy from her. And if you experience that, there is a high chance that you are likely very harsh and critical and firm and judgmental of yourself now, right? You internalized that voice, and that's likely how you relate to yourself and speak to yourself now as well. So either way, however this played out for you, you never got to have that really healthy role model of what it looks like to embody healthy, empowered feminine energy, and feminine energy that's connected to the heart, connected to herself, able to overflow love. And this may have in turn in some way led you to believe that feminine energy is unwanted, it's undesirable, it's negative, it's not something that feels good, or seeing your mother rejected it, you just go, well, I probably need to reject this part of me as well, for example. So this is all really powerful pieces to reflect on. And you might also just reflect on how this has created a bit of a wounded feminine energy inside of you as well. Obviously in how you relate to yourself, but like I said, in how you relate to other women as well. You know, whether you feel insecure around other women, whether you're always in competition, whether you're always pedestalizing them and feeling less than, whether you're in jealousy, whether you're in comparison, whether you find it hard to celebrate women in your life, whether you're easily triggered. You know, a lot of this comes from what our dynamic was with our mother. So as I said, it impacts our relationship with other women, and it impacts our relationship with our own feminine energy and with how we relate to ourselves. So I'm going to give you 4 steps to healing the mother wound. Now, these steps, we can go so much deeper with them than what I'm giving you. I'm just going to give you an idea of the step, and if you do want to go deeper, this is the work we do inside Divine Femme. I'm really holding and supporting you through the actual deep embodied healing work around these woundings that we carry, you know, so we can reprogram them and be liberated from them. So first step to healing the mother wound is we need to work with our inner child. That's where I always begin, because we need to allow our inner child to feel and process the unresolved emotions that she's holding towards her mother. And as a child, you likely didn't get to feel those feelings. Maybe you felt angry at your mother. Maybe you felt hurt. Maybe you felt sad and disconnected or abandoned or unsupported. It's important now that you hold space for your inner child and allow her to feel those feelings. She needs to be allowed to feel what she never felt, and she needs to be validated in what she's feeling. That's a big part of healing the wounding. And then we also need to identify, and the inner child can help communicate with you, what did she want her mother to be? What did you want your mother to be? What did you need that she wasn't able to give you? You need to identify the unmet needs. Okay, so there's unfelt emotions and there's unmet needs. And working with both of those is a really important part of how we heal and resolve our inner child wounds. So whatever you wanted and needed from your mother that she was not able to give you, this is how you now need to be with yourself. And this is how you need to be with your inner child. This is what your inner child most needs to receive. And so when you're supporting your inner child and connecting with her, this is the energy and the qualities you need to be bringing to her. Whatever it is that she was deeply yearning for that she didn't get to receive. Okay, so this is where we really start to build a relationship with this part of ourselves that's carrying the wounding. Step 2 is to practice remothering, okay? And what so many women need to learn to do is how to mother themselves, to be the mother for themselves that they never received. This kind of flows on to my previous point. And so we need to start practicing bringing to ourselves all these qualities, these mothering feminine qualities that we never received, that we're literally so deeply aching and yearning for. And you want to identify what they are. Is it warmth, love, nurturing, care, being seen, being celebrated, compassion, gentleness? Is it affection, kindness, unconditional love? We need to identify what these are. And so when you're working with your inner child, you're bringing this energy, these feelings, this approach of supporting her really through the energetics of the mother. And you're actually now starting as an adult to practice being that way with yourself now, noticing what are these qualities and ways of being that you need to start to bring more to yourself now in how you relate to yourself. The third step is to break the patterns and cycles of re-ingraining the mother wound. Okay, because you know how I was saying we internalize those relationships. We actually re-ingrain the wound over and over through the way that we speak to ourselves and treat ourselves. And what you have to watch out for is whatever you know that your mother did that hurt you. You have to witness any place where you're doing that to yourself. That might look like places you withhold love from yourself, places you abandon or ignore yourself, places you criticize yourself, places you nitpick at yourself and your appearance, places that you're so hard on yourself and you're not able to ever celebrate yourself for anything that you do. This is really important to witness. So really noticing what that core wounding is, the core ways that your mother hurt you, and getting honest around the ways that subconsciously, without realizing, you're doing that to yourself over and over and over, and you are re-ingraining the wound. And step 4 is to develop healthy feminine energy. Okay, and so we spend all of Divine Femme really working on cultivating healthy feminine energy so that you can love and nurture and support yourself. And so part of sometimes reclaiming our feminine energy, we first have to start to look at our relationship to our feminine energy, which was impacted by our relationship with our mother. And we might need to look at, like, what judgments do we hold around being feminine? What negative or limiting beliefs do we hold around it? What qualities or aspects of the feminine do we judge and have we rejected? How do we feel about being in our feminine? Yeah. And then slowly we want to start integrating practices and tools and rituals and things that support us to embrace more of our feminine side of and our feminine energy and awaken more of this through us. And then the more connected we are to our feminine energy, the more of this beautiful feminine love and these feminine qualities that we can bring to ourselves. And that in itself is incredibly healing. Yeah, relating to ourselves as women through the feminine, through this healthy, unconditionally loving, nurturing feminine energy is so healing for our relationship with ourselves. This is where we feel true self-love, we feel deeper self-connection, we feel more supported, more seen, more whole, more full from within, because we are full from within of that beautiful, warm, feminine love. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the father wound. Now, this is a big one for women. And women who come into my spaces, especially in Divine Femme, we're often doing a lot of work around our father wounding. And, you know, I hold wounding very much around both my mother and my father. They're very different, which is why I've split them up here, because the way that they play out for us is very different. But both of them deeply impact us. Okay. So similarly, there's going to be a lot of similarities here. The father wound impacts our relationship with ourselves. It impacts our relationship with our own masculine energy, but it's also reflected in our relationship with men. And I often see the mother wound being more related to and impacting our relationship to love and connection. Whereas I see our father wound impacting our relationship to safety and worthiness. And I'm going to unpack that more. So these fatherly masculine qualities, right? This is often where we're developing wounding around whether or not these qualities were present and were brought to us as young girls in the way that we needed. So these fatherly masculine qualities are things like protection, safety, presence, consistency, trustable, being trustworthy, security, grounding, holding space, provision, dependability, strength, problem solving, and leadership. Okay, these are just an idea of some of the qualities that we can tend to want to feel and receive from our father. So when we're growing up, if our father isn't bringing very healthy, conscious, divine masculine energy, which unfortunately not a lot of men are bringing and know how to bring because of their own wounding, right? This is all getting passed down generationally. But this might be, there's sort of two scenarios we might have grown up in with our fathers. One could be that our father was more in his feminine, so he didn't bring a lot of those masculine qualities to us that we craved. This could have been because our mother was in her masculine and the father was leaning more into the feminine. And so if our father was in the feminine, he might have been more passive, might have really taken a back seat. He might have been more of the nurturer and more soft, more go with the flow. And your mum was more taking the lead on things, perhaps. And I've worked with women on this, and on some level they say to me, but it was beautiful that my father was the one that was so gentle and soft and loving with me. And that is wonderful because that means he's connected to his feminine. But subconsciously as a child, you are going to crave his masculine because that's what makes you feel safe. You're not craving the feminine from him, although it's beautiful to receive, especially if you don't get it from your mother. You're craving masculine. You're craving protection. You're craving safety and stability and dependability and that leader. So either our father could have been in the feminine or our father could have been in a toxic or wounded masculine. And this was my personal experience. He may have been aggressive, dominating. He might have been very controlling, very opinionated around how you need to be living your life and what you need to be doing. He might have had his own things going on, like addiction. He might have been absent. He might have abandoned you in some way. And there was a whole lot going on for him that really impacted his ability to be a safe, present, person in your life. So either way, if our father is not showing up in that full, safe, trustable masculine, in some way there is a lack of safety. And this can be super subconscious, and sometimes we might need to unpack it a little bit to recognize if it's there. But there was some type of experience of not feeling fully safe, protected, taken care of, or provided for in the way you needed. And from the masculine, we often need that in a way that feels really trustable and dependable and reliable and consistent. And this is what's so important for the feminine and for us as children and little girls. We need to know that we can relax. This is what the masculine allows the feminine to do. It allows her to relax, knowing that she is taken care of, knowing that she is safe, and knowing that she is looked after. That's what the masculine presence, especially when it shows up in that really healthy way, that's what it allows the feminine to experience. And that's what allows children to experience. So if that was lacking in our life in some shape or form, however that manifested for you, and you might be like, oh, my dad was great, but it's not about what he did, it's about what your experience was inside your own body and nervous system. And so if that was lacking, our nervous systems may not have ever gotten to fully relax. We may have felt subconsciously or consciously on some level unsafe, on edge, and tense. For me personally, this was because my dad's presence was very unpredictable. Sometimes he was there, sometimes he wasn't. So there was a hypervigilance that I experienced because I couldn't fully relax knowing he was going to be there all the time. He would come and go, and I was always on edge, not knowing what he was doing. He was completely unpredictable to me. And that was terrifying, to be honest, as a little girl. So when we experience that, we may subconsciously start to lean into our own masculine energy in order to feel safe because his was lacking. So we may start to become strong and tough, and we might become more into our head to make sure we're on top of things and hyper aware of things and in control of things. We might become really independent and capable. We might become the caretaker of others. We might become the responsible one, the dependable one. We're the one that's holding things together, whether it's internally or externally, because it feels like that was lacking in some way. And there was never that experience of like, someone else is holding me. Someone else is holding this, so I can completely relax. So that's one experience that really happens that really causes women to lean more into their own masculine energy and develop a nervous system where they struggle to really relax and feel safe in the world. We can also get shaped around this wounding depending on how our father praises us and celebrates us and loves us, which I've talked a lot about on the podcast. So if we were praised a lot for our masculine qualities by our father, our intellect, our academics, our achievements, our performance, our results, the grades that we got, our sporting abilities, our strength, our independence, our mind. If we got a lot of praise and attention and connection and validation from our father for that, this will absolutely shape us. It will cause us to lean more into that energy to try to get more of his love, get more of his attention, get more of his approval. Because we think this is what makes dad happy, this is what makes dad proud of me, this is what makes dad love me. And this starts to impact our sense of worthiness. And we begin to think that we need to do and prove through what we're doing to be worthy of his love and approval. We're kind of proving our worthiness to him. And this can lead us to having woundings growing up as adults around overperforming, overdoing, overachieving, and always needing to do more in order to feel enough and in order to feel worthy. And then women internalize this as well, and they become perfectionists. They place extremely high expectations on themselves. They're only happy with themselves if they're achieving a lot. If they're not achieving anything, they beat up on themselves. They're internalizing their father's voice. They're internalizing how their father praised them, and they're doing the same thing to themselves now. So the father wound causes women to really overfunction in their masculine energy. And this is either because his masculine energy was lacking, so she had to step into her own masculine to compensate, or because his masculine energy didn't provide safety, so she had to lean into her own masculine to feel safe, or because she was praised for her masculine qualities, so she began to animate more of those qualities to get his love and validation. And as a result, we have a woman now who's really operating from this wounded masculine, this masculine shield she's built around herself that is ultimately built to help her feel safe and enough in the world. And then with men, okay, I'll talk about this a bit more in a moment. With our relationship with men, this really plays out. Because subconsciously, whatever we didn't receive from our fathers, we will often find ourselves seeking for in men now. That little wounded part of us is seeking for daddy's love, is seeking for daddy's approval, is seeking for safety, is seeking to feel enough in the eyes of the masculine. And it's playing out through us, trying to seek for men who can give us the very things that we felt like we never received. And for years, this happened for me when I was single for many, many years. I would call in the same type of man over and over, and it was a man that just mirrored back my father wound. And my father wound was feeling abandoned and not feeling fully chosen like I was the number one priority. So I kept attracting and chasing men who weren't available and weren't able to fully claim me and choose me and prioritize me in the way that I wanted, which just re-ingrained my pain and left me feeling abandoned over and over again. And so I kept subconsciously attracting that because I was like, oh, this man that is abandoning me, if I can finally prove to him that, that I'm lovable, that I'm worthy, if he could see how amazing I am, then he would finally claim me. He would finally choose me. And it's like, yeah, that would somehow help alleviate the wounding and the pain I was carrying around my father. And that didn't change until I did the inner child healing work and the father wound work. I was in that pattern for years. Okay, so 4 steps to healing the father wound. And obviously, like I said, we can go so much deeper into this. I hold and support you through this in Divine Femme, but here are your starting points. And these are similar to what I was talking about with the mother wound. Number 1, we work with our inner child to feel and process the unresolved emotions around your father. Again, she needs to be allowed to feel whatever she never felt. One big thing for me that I carried a lot towards my father was anger. And I was never able to be angry at him as a kid. As a kid, we idolize our parents, even if they hurt us, even if we are in pain, we still idolize them. And we don't let ourselves be angry. We don't let ourselves be upset. So I had to give my inner child a lot of space and time to let her anger out that she was carrying towards my dad, and that for a long time she carried towards the masculine in general. So how did you want your father to be? What was it you were craving from him the most that he wasn't able to give you? Again, this is how you need to start to be with yourself. So this is about you identifying what your inner child most needed and then starting to show up to give this to her and yourself. Now, I had a woman in Divine Femme ask me a question around this, which was really powerful. And she was like, Connie, how do I do like the refathering work? And I'll talk more about this in a moment. She's like, I'm not a man, how do I be the man for my inner child that she never got to receive? And it's not about you needing to be a man. It's about you bringing the particular qualities that are maybe more masculine qualities to yourself. So we can bring either qualities that feel more feminine or qualities that feel more masculine. And it's about understanding what they are so you can bring them to your inner child. So step 2 is to practice refathering. And now let me give you a bit more information on how to do this, bringing the masculine to yourself. So the energy that you need to bring to your inner child and yourself will be these fathering qualities: presence, safety, space holding, security, steadiness, grounding, protection, provision. And sometimes it's those things that it's just those words like, I'm here, I've got you, I'm not going anywhere, I can hold you in this, I can hold all of you, you're safe, I'm looking after you, I've got you. They're some of the things that my inner child needs to hear that have more of a masculine energetic to them. And, we do a lot of work inside the program around this, but I've really had to look at, my own relationship to my masculine energy and whether I'm embodying some of these qualities, these masculine qualities that I really need. Grounding, I remember, was one I really had to work on. My ability to hold space for myself. My ability to bring presence to myself and not ignore myself. My ability to bring a safe, non-judgmental space to myself where all of me was welcome without judgment. My ability to provide and fully provide and show up for the needs of my feminine self. Okay, step 3, this is a really important one, is to stop ingraining your father wound through the men that you are dating. So often we subconsciously attract men who remind us of our fathers, because subconsciously we think, if I can get from this man the very thing that I was not able to get from my father, then it will resolve my wound. So if my wound is feeling unloved, not enough, unwanted, not chosen, not important, and then I meet this man and he's able to give that to me, and this man who subconsciously reminds me of my father, he's able to love me, he chooses me, he claims me, he wants me, then this will finally resolve my wound and my deeper pain that I am carrying. And it will resolve these beliefs I hold about myself, that I'm not lovable, that I'm not worthy, and that I am not enough. But so often we are seeking this through men who can't give this to us. And so it keeps ingraining the wound, because the true place, the only place the wound can be resolved, is within ourselves. So I really encourage women to look at this. We have to look at the tendency we have subconsciously to keep attracting these unhealthy relationship dynamics. The inner child part of us is subconsciously attracting men who remind us of our fathers, because she's trying to resolve the wound, but she can't resolve the wound in that relationship. It has to be resolved in your relationship with yourself. So this might mean at times setting boundaries and cutting off and stepping away from any relationship dynamic that simply is re-triggering your wounds over and over and over. You really have to start to protect your inner child. And then step 4 is to heal your masculine energy. And we want to start to look at how our father wound created wounded masculine energy inside of us, where likely we are trying to prove our worthiness through achieving and through doing, where perhaps we are using masculine energy and control in order to feel safe in the world. We're wearing a masculine shield in order to feel safe. We want to start to look at that. And then we want to start to develop a healthy inner masculine energy. And when we cultivate a healthy masculine energy, this helps create inner safety for ourselves. Yeah. This is inner safety where there's this beautiful relationship between your inner feminine and masculine energies, where your masculine shows up in service. It takes action in service to what your feminine needs. You're able to bring presence and space holding and grounding and safety to yourself. And you're able to set up things in your life that honor and support you and stop re-ingraining all the pains and woundings that you hold around men and the masculine. So like I said, this is deep work. There's quite a bit of work involved in this, but this episode was really just to give you a good understanding of these wounds and how they might be playing out for you, and really what the process is of beginning to resolve them and heal them. This work has been life-changing for me, and I see it absolutely change the lives of the women in my spaces who do this work. It changes your relationships with men and with women. It allows you to heal these wounds that you might have been carrying your entire life towards your parents, and it heals your relationship with yourself, and it also heals your relationship to your own feminine and masculine energies. So if you want to go deeper into this work, in Divine Femme, we do all the feminine healing work. We do the feminine embodiment work. We do a lot of deeper somatic work to resolve the woundings and the things that are holding you back. And then we begin to really help you awaken beautiful, healthy, mature, divine, empowered feminine energy. And this is this beautiful journey that I've curated over 6 months for you in Divine Femme. So as I said, enrollments are open. We have early enrollments open. Come and get on the wait list at conniechapman.com/divinefemme, and you will be sent links to join us. Get in early so you can dive into your welcome resources and you're all ready for when we begin in February. Thank you so much for being tuned into this episode, my love. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to talking to you again next time.